Anneliese, great to see you again. Welcome to Pop Alternative. Well, welcome back to Pop Alternative.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. I mean, it's exciting, right? Because, 4 seasons of Sweet Magnolias. Like, it's pretty crazy to think about, right?
It's insane. It's the coolest thing. And one of the writers on our show, Sarah, keeps saying in her Instagram posts, it's the honor of a lifetime. And I keep stealing that line from her,
Yep.
but I feel like there's no other words. It's just the honor of a lifetime.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to ask because maybe it differs each season, but like that script to screen journey is really interesting, right? Because you get like kind of breakdowns and like the scripts for each episode, and then you actually see it come to life on screen when you film it. So what's that like for you with Sweet Magnolia specifically, that script to screen journey specifically?
It's been really interesting. It's very different, I think, from the first season to the fourth season. Like, it doesn't feel very different if I just think of like, oh, well, like what I did last season, what I did the season before. But if I compare like season four to season one, I think there's actually quite a bit of a difference. I've always put a lot of pressure on myself in my whole life. I hold myself to very high expectations. And I think season one being so green and it being the first season of the show and really one of the first things I have ever worked on, I I think that I was very focused on my scenes and what I needed to do and
Yeah.
the intention and what I was trying to drive into the story. And I think now I look at everyone else's scenes and I look at the theme of each episode and I understand so much more and I've let myself accept my pieces in the puzzle.
Yep.
And that carrying the theme of the episode is not entirely on my back,
Yeah.
which it never was. But I think that I just put a lot of pressure on myself sometimes to perform to the best of my ability and to be the best I can be. And so I think I guess I approached my work this season with just a renewed sense of freedom, giving myself the permission to play and really look at, the where it was going rather than just, moment to moment.
Yeah. It's interesting too, right? Because when you return for a season, there's always like what's going to happen in general with the story this season, but you also, from a preparation mindset perspective, you're interested to see what's going to happen with your character too. And I feel like each season it might be different, but it sounds like a lot of times it's a little bit of both. Like you want to know what's going on with your character, but you want to know what's going on with the story. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, for sure. I think that I've really had an interest in directing,
Mhm.
and then my boyfriend being a producer, getting to learn that side of things as well. I've just had an interest in all of the other workings of a production, and so I think having taking a different lens this season almost,
Yeah.
just in what I'm learning and when I'm not actively filming a scene, how I'm watching other scenes happen, and then watching JoAnna direct this season and Matt Drake, our
Yes.
executive producer. I think I got to shadow them quite a bit and watch them from Video Village. And it was just the coolest thing. And I think really seeing the way that all the pieces come together again, it was such an interesting perspective for me to gain this season,
Yeah.
more so than ever before.
Yeah.
It was cool.
It's interesting too because I've spoken to you about this a couple seasons ago. I've spoken to Cheryl J. Anderson about this. I spoke to JoAnna and Brooke about this. Family and friends is always going to be like the focal point of Sweet Magnolias. It will always be the center of attention, but the show does a really good job of blending a lot of kind of like slice of life, important kind of lessons and other kind of themes throughout the shows and throughout the episodes as well. So I'm wondering, given that we kind of established that it's like the focal point is family and friends, what are other elements that you kind of like a little bit about it? Do you like kind of just in general kind of the, drama? Do you like the fact that it's a little heartfelt? Do you like also the fact that there is kind of that self-reflection of a lot of characters? Like, are there ever elements that kind of stand out for you specifically?
I think I just love our show. I'm a real romance lover. I'm a big reader. I've always been a reader, and
Mhm.
so that's the primary genre and subgenre that I am drawn to. And so I think that I guess it's really the relationships and the connection, and
Mhm.
even relationship being defined as like my relationship with my mom. I mean, how we work together and how sometimes we butt heads and how we're growing together and we're on these different paths, but how we support each other. So I guess it is like the family and friends of it that I love the most and that community aspect. Um, but yeah, I think it's the relationships and how they develop, how they grow. And I think it is a little bit of the drama. I think I love that it's called Serenity, this town, but
Yeah.
it's not always very serene. I love that. So I think I'm really drawn to our show just because even if I wasn't an actor on the show, I would watch it and I would probably be as obsessed with it as I am now. So
That is such a good segue to my next question. It's almost like you knew I was going to ask this almost. I don't know. That was a perfect segue because I find it interesting, right? Because more like there's been more seasons than others. I mean, there have been kind of like the last episodes of a season, like, oh my goodness, what did I just watch and what is going to happen next, right? There's been some crazy cliffhangers in past seasons.
yeah.
And, you know, you you find out about that when you find out about that, and then it's disseminated to the world on Netflix and it's out of your hands. There's all these theories until the next season comes out. So given that, right, I'm wondering, are you ever conscious of the audience member watching Sweet Magnolias while you're making it? Like the reactions or like theories while you're making it? Or does that happen a little bit after you wrap? Like I'm curious about that specifically.
In the moment while we're filming, no. I
Okay.
feel like I've been really good at kind of putting on like my tunnel vision and just focusing on whoever I'm in the scene with and those moment to moment beats. And just having a good time with them. I think it's honestly probably not until like the week the show comes out, like right now, where I'm like, ooh, oh my gosh, okay, like I wonder how people are going to react to this, or like I wonder what they're going to think of this. That gets me just kind of stirred up and like in my head where I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they love this as much as I did, or they have as much fun watching this scene as I did performing it. And then also, like I had mentioned about, paying more attention to the other stories and how they kind of how they parallel each other in a lot of ways. Like Annie can be learning something at the same time that Maddie is learning something, just in different ways. Um, and just kind of picking up on those connections. And so it also makes me that much more invested in what's going on with the other characters. Like there's some scenes this season where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this and like see how it turned out from filming it to how they all put it together, how each director, cut it and what the final looks like. So sometimes, but not in the moment.
It's interesting too because it also I feel like depends when you find out about certain things. I mean, that car accident from a few seasons ago. I mean, there were some people that didn't even like know about that until like later on, right? Like, you know what I mean by that? Like, there were some people that didn't even know about that storyline until like late, like super late filming.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, things just sometimes change.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily change, but as the scripts are being drafted, we don't always get them all at once in the
Yes,
beginning of
it
the
depends.
season.
Absolutely. Because I know
Yeah.
for that, some of those cliffhangers, I think they purposely don't tell you until like the moment, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that our showrunner is fantastic about letting us know, like, hey, we're writing this thing, like this is kind of where it's going if you have
Mhm.
questions. Or you're like, I'm not, where is this leading? Like what's the intent of this scene? She's fantastic. We
Mhm.
have such great open conversations with her. Um, but yeah, with the car accident, it's like she would not tell any of us until we were renewed and back in the writer's room who was in the car, and
Yep.
it killed all of us. But it was fun to do that and then experience it all together. We're all I think I said the writer's room, but in the table read, I'm sorry, in the
Yes.
first table read of the next season, that's when we all found out together. And it was the craziest moment where we all were like, okay, no one talk. We are gonna sit here and we want to start reading this episode so we all can find out what happened.
I
So
know.
that's always fun.
It's crazy. We'll get back to Sweet Magnolias quickly, but I do want to talk about quickly. You have a book club. You run a book club called Who to Judge. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then I have a question about book readers and book lovers that I want to pick your brain about. But you've been doing this for about a couple years now, right? This book club and the interviews and everything.
Yeah, I have. I feel like I've really ramped it up in the last like 6 to 8 months. I've really just found my community and my family of book lovers, I feel like. But so it's hosted completely online on Who to Judge Co. on Instagram and TikTok. And I feel like I started it because I love to read and I had kind of fallen out of reading just because of the busyness of life. And I had tried to join a couple book clubs, but I feel like traditional book clubs often have rules that make it really hard for people to keep up with them. And I decided that I needed to start one on my own where we could just throw all of that away. So there's no deadlines, there's no, reading requirements. I post one book a month. I highlight it and the author, we talk with the author. And I post some fun content about it, and we just kind of read it together at your own pace. And there's no judgment, there's no deadline. Like I said, you just get to read and have fun with it, and it's about the experience of sharing a story and
Mhm.
experiencing a story with different perspectives together, without the pressure that you're not going to be allowed back because you missed a meeting or something.
As the founder of a book club and as an avid book lover, what do you think of this ping pong match with adapting a book to a film or a TV show? Because I feel like that is like, I feel like we could have a whole podcast series on that. But at the end of the day, like, I understand that there is that want to do it justice, right? And like, but it's not the book. It's like a Netflix adaptation. You know what I mean? So it's like that's interesting. Like, you don't have to say much about it, but that's like, I'm sure that comes up a lot, right? Like with like in that world.
No, I think that it's super interesting. I think that, talking about our show in particular, our showrunner, Cheryl Anderson, has done a fantastic job with Miss Cheryl Woods, the author of the books.
Yep.
She was like, I want to be a good steward of your stories, I believe is what she said. Almost a direct quote maybe, but where, but she was like, I want to do justice to your characters, and there has to be some changes between a novel and an adaptation, just simply because the audience is going to be a bit different and the pacing is going to be different. But I think that that would be how I would hope to approach any adaptations that I ever did in the future on my own or were a part of as well, of like, how can I do this justice? And that's what we can do. And I think it's so wonderful to have the writer of the books involved to
The
the extent
best.
that they
Yep.
are. And yeah, I think it gives an interesting perspective. And I think particularly having read the Sweet Magnolias books, Cheryl's just done a fantastic job of keeping the essence of the books into the show. And um I think that's the way it should be. I think it's fantastic.
When it's you and Logan and Carson, like even going back to season one, like how often are like the books like referred to or talked to like on set in passing? Like, is the source material involved with your preparation and process, or is it kind of just one of those like things where it's just kind of like, here and there? Like, I'm just wondering about that. Like, do the three of you bring it up from season to season sometimes at the books, or
Um, I don't I don't think we do, not really.
okay,
Just because the journeys of our characters and the storylines have kind of changed a bit. When Ty and Annie do get together in like book 5 or 6, they're adults. And
yeah,
so even the conversation around like Ty and Annie is just different because we are still playing 16 and 17, I think. So I think that because of those changes, the books aren't really brought up between the three of us on set. But I think they may have read the first book, and I think the books are fantastic.
so
I've had
yeah.
a lot of fun rereading them this month for the book club. We're reading Sweet Magnolias, Stealing Home, the first book in the series, and so I'm having Cheryl Anderson and Cheryl Woods on to talk about the adaptation. And that's just been really fun to hear them talk about that process.
That's so awesome. Though people can really check that out. I'll make sure to put all that info in the description. And then, of course, season 4 of Sweet Magnolias worldwide on
Thank
Netflix,
you.
February 6th.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm
um,
so excited. I honestly feel like this is the best season yet, which I think I also say every season, but I just think it's this season, especially for Annie, getting to explore her friendships and develop something that she's really been longing for and
yeah.
struggling with for the past 3 seasons.
Mhm.
It's so special, and this is, I think, such a big moment for her. So I'm so excited.
No, absolutely. Well, I can't wait for people to check it out. And at least so great chatting with you again. Thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your Instagram account, can you plug away and like plug the book club as well? Like, where can people follow everything?
Oh my gosh. Okay. They can follow me on Anneliese Judge. My name is spelled Anneliese. And then C and Judge, like a court judge. And then my book club account is Who to Judge Co.
Awesome. Well, this has been Pop Turner, youtube.com/Pop Turner previous episodes. Until next time, it's Anneliese and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.